Hey guys, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my channel. Sorry, I actually packed away my tripod for our trip already, so I'm having to hold my phone in my hand. But this is the birth story of my second boy. So the whole pregnancy was pretty unremarkable, nothing too much going on. About halfway through, they did find that once again I had extra fluid, kind of like before. So I was being sent weekly for the non-stress test. So it just meant I had to go to the doctor's office, they'd put on the monitor, listen for a while, and then I could go home. I went to my 39-week checkup. I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, it was a Tuesday. And they did a membrane sweep, which last time that didn't do anything for me. So I went home that night, felt fine. It's funny, I looked at my work schedule. So because of what I do, my schedule is different every day. But I looked at my work schedule and I remember thinking I didn't want to do the next day's schedule. I had to do an admission. I didn't want to do it. So I thought I felt crampy that night when I went to sitting on the couch, but I also remember thinking it was just me being hopeful. But I went to bed. Forgive me with my times here. I'm not 100% sure on all the timing anymore, but I wrote it down. But I woke up around 3:30. I started feeling contractions where they were keeping me awake. So at that point, I got up. We do have a big soaker tub in our bathroom. And I remember the whole pregnancy saying I wanted to labor in the tub. So I filled up the tub, got in, and I quickly realized that was not helping me at all. It just wasn't it. So I didn't want to wake up Mark, especially because I didn't know if that's what really was going on. So I went downstairs. Originally I had told mom that I would pack clothing and lunches for James. That way, when she brings him to school and stuff, everything was ready for her. So I went downstairs. I was trying to pack his lunch and I couldn't do it. I couldn't even stand in the kitchen. It was just in too much pain. So I went in the living room, laid down for a while. My mom is an early riser, so I sent her a text and I knew that when she woke up, she'd text me back. So of course she did around 4:30 or so. I was able to doze on and off, while the contractions were coming. So I kind of just talked to her for a while, and then it got to the point that I got up and it almost felt better to sit in the bathroom. So while I was doing that, Mom and I kept talking about the plan, saying, at first we were okay, we'll drop James off at daycare at 7:30 and then we'll head down to their office so they can check me, and then we can see if, we can go into the hospital. And then it became the plan just kept changing as the pain got worse and worse. I remembered I had one of those big yoga balls right in my living room, right near the bathroom. So I hung up the phone with my mom and I got up to get the yoga ball. And the second I started walking, I knew I had to get sick. So I immediately went back. I got sick. At that point, I was like, okay, I need to go upstairs and, wake up Mark and see really what's going on. And it was also when I was on the couch / in the bathroom was when I got my work phone out and I sent an email to my supervisor at the time. And I just said, I don't know if this is it, but I'm having awful contractions, so I'm out. And I remember I had been keeping this list of my patients with the current status of them. And so I remember sitting in the bathroom sending that list over to her so that way she could pass it along to the nurses filling in. So I went upstairs. Every time I had a contraction, I was screaming, lots of pain. I then hopped in the shower, and the hot water on my back actually made things a little bit better. So Mark did wake up. He came in to check on me. I guess at that point he called my mom. She said, give the doctor a call. So we called the doctor. At this point it's like 15-ish or so. So he called the doctor, told the answering service what's going on. The doctor called him back and they said, yep, let's get to the hospital. So at this point, I'm like kind of directing Mark, we knew we were going to take my car, but my car was now blocked in the driveway. So he had to go out. He like switched the cars around. My bag was packed and in the car, and his bag was mostly packed, but I knew what was missing. So I was like telling him, during the moments that I had when I wasn't having the contractions, what to pack. So he got that stuff already. I told him just to get me a dress out of my closet. I knew the dress would be the most comfortable thing to put on. There's no way I was putting pants on or anything restrictive. So Mark calls my mom. Now at this point, she lives like a mile away, like 1 mile away from our house. And he calls her and was like, doctor said, let's go. We'll be waiting. Like we're getting to the car. Well, we're waiting. And we did find out later on that she was taking her time and was like, oh, she has plenty of time. Her first labor went so long that she, I don't have to rush. Like she was getting like her stuff ready for work and whatever, because this was a Wednesday morning. So I was standing outside on my porch, leaning on the railing, screaming at like 5:45 in the morning. Mark actually wanted to leave and he's like, she's on her way. James is fine. He's asleep. Let's just go. But of course I didn't want to do that. So she did come in. We didn't even like really say anything. We kind of just like, we were in the car ready and she was coming in at the same time and we just like left. And there was no way I was able to sit down, but I also couldn't lay in the back because we had a little car and our other son's car seat was like strapped in. So we couldn't do anything. I couldn't lay in the back. So I was kneeling on the seat facing backwards. I had like my left leg, like knee up on the seat with my right leg straight down on the floor. And I was like holding the back of the seat. So we're driving along. It was awful pain on the back roads, just all the turns. He was trying to go fast. He's calling his mom, he's calling his boss, and his boss, like when he called his boss on the phone to tell him he wasn't coming in, I happened to have a contraction right at that moment. So I was yelling at him with not so nice words to get off the phone. But we finally get to the highway. It's a little bit better just because it's a straight shot. So he's flying down. I know he was going fast. Sorry, it's loud, but I know he was going fast. At one point I looked at the speedometer and he was going like 88 miles an hour. I'm sure he went faster. I never really looked at it. But at one point he calls my mom and he's like, can I call for a police escort? And she's like, oh, you're joking. Like, don't joke around. She's fine. Just keep driving. So we get to a point where my contractions now start to feel more like a push. Now, I know what that means. I think most of the world knows what that means, but they always say don't push, but when your body is ready to push, not only does it push anyways, but it also feels so much better with the pain to just start pushing than to not. So I was starting to push and I was like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I went through 2 contractions of like that bearing down, pushing feeling when I knew I had to feel down below, but I was almost scared. After the second contraction of pushing, I did feel down and I could feel the baby's head. It wasn't out, but I could feel that the head was there. And I was like, okay, this is happening. Hey, Jay, I'm recording. Do you know what I'm telling everybody about? I'm telling them the story about how Jackson was born.
What?
Do you guys know the story?
No.
No.
I do.
Yeah, you do?
Huh?
How were you born?
Oh, chicken nugget.
Chicken nugget.
Is that how we was born?
No.
He was born chicken nugget.
So once I knew the baby's head was there, I told Mark, I said, you need to keep driving because I can feel the baby's head. And I remember him saying to me, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I do. And so I said, you need to call the ER and tell them to be ready for us. So he does. He calls the ER. He tells me that they said, you know, we have a team ready for you. I know he also gave them some details that like I was, you know, close to my due date, like I wasn't in preterm or anything like that. So we pull into one of the driveways and we at that very moment could not like figure out which way the ER was, so we started driving towards the valet. And then I remember hearing like over here with people like waving their arms, so he throws the car in reverse. Now we're not even like in a parking spot, we're just like in the middle of like the parking lot area, and there were a bunch of people. I don't remember much from here. Mark has told me what I am about to say, but I opened the car door and I then like lay on the seat with like my legs outside of the car, and a team comes over. So someone brought a gurney over, and then I guess one of the nurses there like saw me and was like, nope, she's not moving. So I remember one of the nurses like rubbing my leg, being like, we got you, mama, like you're good. You know, when you feel a contraction, just push. So 2 contractions after being there, so less than a minute, I gave birth to our second baby, sitting right there in my car in the parking lot. So I remember I wanted Mark to say it's a boy or it's a girl. So I said, don't tell me. And then I was like, I want my husband to tell me, but I couldn't find Mark. I didn't know where he was. I found out afterwards that he was like he was in the driver's door, like watching through the car, because there were so many people around me in the passenger side. So I finally said, forget it. I said, is it a boy or girl? And they said, it's a boy. So some doctor came over, told me who they were. I don't remember now. And they just said, you know, baby's not breathing. We're going to take him inside and we'll bring him back to you. So come to find out, there was meconium again. And so he had swallowed some, so he needed to just have everything suctioned out. So at that point, the nurses got me on the stretcher, brought me up to the labor and delivery unit, and got me settled up there. That's when my doctor finally arrived, and we did the delivering of like the placenta and stuff. So the afterbirth. Mark says that whenever you go into L&D, you can valet your car. And so he brought it over, and the valet guy was like, yeah, I'm not parking that car. So Mark parked it right in the front. I had no idea what the car looked like or anything like that. We did find out later on there really wasn't anything in there, shockingly. So it was in good condition. But when Mark got in there, someone was like, Mom, baby. That way he could pick which way to go. And thankfully he went with the baby, which is what I would have wanted him to do. So not long after that, the doctor and Mark walked in with baby boy. And yeah, it was just, you know, we started latching. We were able to order breakfast. Mark called my mom right after and was like, well, we have a baby. And she's like, what do you mean we have a baby? And he's like, I told you she was in labor. So I then like told her the story, but we were pretty famous in the hospital for that day that we were there. They did kind of like, when do you want to go home? And I said the least, you know, as soon as I can. So they said 24 hours, which was fine. You know, everyone then on the unit knew us as the car baby, but everything was fine. He was 8 pounds, 7 ounces, 20.5 inches long. And we named him Jackson Paul. He actually has a pretty cool birthday, kind of like me. So I'm 9/9/91. He's 11/11/2020. So it's really cool. So when I went in for my like 6-week follow-up, the doctor came in and goes, oh, do you want to do this out in the car? So it's funny. Everyone kind of knows about him and how his story was. So someday I will be able to tell him, but not right now. He doesn't obviously know. But even my mom, she had reached out to my best friend Julie and was like, wait till you hear the story. And she was with like her roommate, and they were like, oh, watch her like have, you know, give birth in the car. And you know, they were like, oh, you should name him Carson. And then the other thing I look back on is that Julie always said never make a birth plan, and I didn't. So I was like, the only thing I want is to make it to the hospital. And I guess I should have been more specific and said make it inside the hospital. I do have to say, like, for that day and even part of the next day, it took a lot for me to process it. Like, it was one of those moments that you're like, what the heck just happened? I was looking back in like text messages, phone calls. I was writing out the times on like, you know, blank hospital paperwork that I had, because I was trying to make sense of what had happened in those 3 hours. So yes, I went from a 30-hour labor to a 3-hour labor, unmedicated, where I give birth in my car. But anyways, that's the story of our second born. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to join the family, click that subscribe button as well. I'd love to hear a little bit about your birth stories or any family or friends that had a cool or different birth story. So please leave me a comment down below. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.